I think AI actually empowers smaller teams because you can have like a small team be as productive now as what in the past was like a larger team. I don't see these huge SaaS products that are crazy expensive, those as valuable. And this is what a lot of people do, like dumping a lot of information on the AI and say, hey, just do it for me. That actually works counterproductive. For the more context you give it, actually the worse it can perform on a specific task. Don't underestimate yourself just because you're a smaller player. I think you can leverage AI way more than all these large companies.
Oh, thank you very much for talking on this call.
You're welcome. You're welcome. My pleasure.
Yeah, we met in Reddit. I don't know which subreddit was that, but I think I was asking a question regarding N8N
Yeah, it was on the N8N subreddit.
to automation, and I don't really know much about setting up and stuff like that. So there was this workflow I was stuck with, and then yeah, you helped me, gave me a direction, and yeah, thanks a lot for that.
Yeah, it was fun.
You call yourself a solution developer working across fintech and automation. What does that actually mean day to day to you?
Well, yeah, it's a bit of like an unusual name, perhaps, or like an unusual title, but that's because most of the jobs that I've had, like, was hired for like a different type of job, and then very often I started helping the teams out with automation stuff and just like building products for them. I'm a web developer now for 20 years, and very quickly that became my job. Like, and this has happened like through 3 jobs or something, where my role changed just based off of this building solutions, solving problems that usually my teammates or people in my department usually were not equipped to do. And yeah, that's how I got to that name. It's not really a standard role inside a company, but that also makes it fun as well.
Well, you seem to be doing something what you're good at. I'm really glad you are on this journey. And but the title is
Thanks.
cool as well. And I'm curious, what's a recent project that shows what you do? Something where you came in and the results surprised even you, right?
So a lot. I work a lot with HR departments, and like HR departments typically just work with like their Excel or their Google Sheets or like those kinds of tools, and they usually don't have access to like really technical resources. Usually, when they exist in the company, they're used for other processes. So very often, I come in and I just look at the processes and how they work, and then I come up with either automations or products, or sometimes I just advise on a process change. Like sometimes it's also the solution, right? It's not always technical. But yeah, a recent one. So recently I have been working a lot with companies on their compensation processes. So like the compensation processes are always like these huge processes. You can think about like setting up a job architecture for a company and then tying that to benchmark data so that they can accurately estimate how competitive their payment is. And then they can adjust to fit, to that process. Like it sounds like a simple thing, but like it takes a year usually, like if not more. And then after that, there's like 3 people continuously like updating that plan and stuff and updating the structure and so forth. Like I was able to help a company get that to like 2 months. Like in 2 months, we had like all of this running and pay bands were generated. The whole job architecture was created for them. And that was like one of those moments where I was like, I don't think this would have been possible if you just got a standard out of the box tool and try to use that and implement that. There's usually a huge amount of change management involved with those kinds of projects. But because like I came in, looked at their processes and built something custom for them, that caused basically the process to be like way faster. Like, and because I have a background in working a lot with HR departments, I also understand the processes quite well. So we were able to just clear that in no time, record time, basically. That was one of my recent
Yeah, I can
projects.
imagine.
It was very fun.
I can imagine this may sound like something simple in terms of you tweaking here and there, improving the processes, but somebody who worked at a small organization, a large organization, I can attest that for a medium or a big company who post jobs, they receive like thousands of job applications, and you have to sort that. You have to make sure that everything internally aligned structurally for the HR department. So you kind of filter that down, and then you kind of like orchestrate the whole the procedures for mm, for the candidates, right?
Yeah,
For
exactly.
shortlisted
Ex-
interviews and stuff like that. This is
exactly.
a pretty complex stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
and,
for
and
sure.
it's especially complex because these are processes that have to be aligned with a whole organization, and it's also
All
it
right.
pertains to salary, so it's also like a very sensitive topic very often, and you need to get everyone aligned to agree with your approach, and that part is usually the part that takes like the most time. We were even able to come up with solutions for that to drive that a bit faster, and as a result, we were able to set up
100%.
a whole.
And you wouldn't be able to do that without AI, right? And there's
Yes,
also
yeah, yeah, definitely.
this assumption that big companies with big budgets are going to win the AI race. Do you buy that?
Not at all, actually. Actually, I think it's the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So what I'm seeing now is because I'm a coder myself, like the whole coding landscape has completely changed. And so code has become cheaper, and it's you don't need like a whole software engineering department to build like a product. And I'm really curious to see how, like, going forward, because you have like a lot of these enterprise, very big, expensive enterprise solutions, right? That companies pay millions and millions a year for and have been paying that for a long time. And what I'm very curious to see is how are these companies going to justify that price tag in a world where code can be written like 5 times faster, you know? And that's what I'm very curious about. So I think AI actually empowers smaller teams because you can have like a small team be as productive now as what in the past was like a larger team. And because it's a smaller team, they can implement things like way faster. So you maintain that agility as well that big companies just don't have at
And
all.
and building on that, can you give us a concrete example, something where AI helped you do what would normally require a specialist or an expensive consultant?
Yeah. So another reason why I think smaller teams and the companies will benefit way more from AI than the larger teams is that the whole point of larger teams is that you have uh, more people that can specialize in a certain role. When you're like a very specialist in a certain field, AI can help you do things a little bit faster, perhaps potentially, but it's not going to help you like save hours and hours on your job, right? So one example that I had is I am building out like now for the first time, like building out my own products and building my own SaaS basically. When you have a platform where you need to ingest data and stuff, you need to have like a bunch of things around compliance be like airtight. So for example, you need to be able to have a data processing agreement. We're living in Europe that you then communicate to your client to say, hey, this is how your data will be used in my system. I didn't have a data processing agreement. And usually in a big company, like someone from the compliance team looks at it, has some template somewhere, takes it out, changes maybe a few things for the client specifically, and then sends that over. Like I could not help with that much. But for me, like normally it would take me like it would take you like a week to research everything and to try to see what needs to be in there and stuff. Maybe get some examples, read all of them. But I was able to create one in basically just 2 hours. I had a buddy of mine who is in this space and look it over and was like, yeah, this is just like a standard DPA that should work and be all right. And so because I had like basically no experience there, AI was able to get me like to say 80-90% in like no time, because that's where it's good at. It's like 90%. But if you're an expert who's already at 95% expertise, the AI is not going to do a whole lot except make it like a little bit faster, maybe. But so like a smaller team that has like more responsibilities and it's not so specialized will be able to leverage these tools way more because they can, yeah, bring all of their domains basically to the 80-90%.
Right.
So that's why I think also another reason why smaller teams can benefit a lot more because they are broader in nature and they can then leverage.
Yeah, that's crazy. I remember from my own experience where clients would ask for a DPA, I would be like, okay, let me talk to my data officer, and data officer like, no,
Yeah,
let me get back to you sometime soon, and then
yeah,
sometime soon,
yeah.
I'm sure it's not 2 hours, right? And it's minimum
No, no,
maybe
no. Yeah,
minimum two
yeah,
days, maybe two
yeah,
weeks after wait, and
yeah,
then by
yeah,
that
yeah.
time you lose that client, it's bye bye.
Exactly. And that is another reason. Like the more people you have, that touch a certain process, like the slower it will become. Like AI is not gonna solve that
Yeah,
part that well,
100%.
right? And so if you're like a smaller team with like broader responsibilities, you might discuss it with one person, but then that's it. Like then you can already move. So I am genuinely convinced that smaller teams and even solopreneurs will be able to leverage all of this way faster. And so like I've done a little bit of a prediction in the past where I said that smaller companies will be able to outcompete the bigger companies at some point, not necessarily in every industry, of course, but especially like when it comes to software, I'm very curious to see whether it's gonna pan out because they'll just be able to leverage these tools way more than.
About you executing that at the speed of light, 2 hours seems like a little kind of unbelievable. But I'm sure you, as someone in a solution developer, can knows how exactly to like what exactly to ask and the right ways to ask. I think it kind of comes down to what people know these days as prompt engineering, but it's a little bit like it sounds a bit techy and kind of throws people off. So maybe you can shed a light and help us understand what, like, did you apply the same methodology, like the prompt engineering, or it doesn't work like that? So maybe people are just, overcomplicating this term and the
Yeah,
whole thing.
yeah, I definitely think the term prompt engineering, or these days the newer version of that is context engineering. The complexity of that I think is a little bit overstated. There are a few things that are very very important when you write to like an AI, right? You do need to give it the right context, so you do needs to have the right information, otherwise it cannot work with that. But actually, instead of, this is what a lot of people do, like dumping a lot of information on the AI and say, "Hey, just do it for me." That actually works counterproductive, because it's called context rot is the term for it. The more context you give it, actually, the worse it can perform on a specific task. So you just need to be precise about a very small particular amount of information that the AI needs to have to do that particular task that you want it to do. And so, yeah, that's just something that I do now, like automatically. And like, I don't think in these
Awesome.
templates where, okay, you have to first tell it that this is your role, and then this is what I want you to do, and then
Right.
there are a bunch of templates out there, right? Like, just be concise and be precise in your approach, and then usually you get most things out of it, the things that you want quite quickly. And
That's
yeah, of
amazing.
course,
That's
sometimes
amazing because
you'll have to go a little bit back and forth, but I think
yeah,
that will always be the case. But yeah,
because
that's at least what works for
I
me.
got myself
There are a lot
into
of
the rabbit hole of prompt engineering
yeah,
at some point.
a lot of people selling courses out there for quite basic information. Like you need to practice it a little bit, and then I think if you practice it on a bit of a variety of tasks and stuff, you will get the hang of it at some point. Like, give it specific information. Don't ask it to generate a huge chunk in one go. Like, the smaller the chunks that you want it to output, the more specific you can then be in your context as well, and that you get then better results, basically.
Right. And you would be cool to share those templates, right? Like as sort of guidelines for the prompting.
So
Would that be
that's it.
possible?
That,
Awesome.
that was it. That was it for me. Just be concise and be precise.
Concise, precise. All right. Super sure.
I don't have a template. No, I don't. I really don't have like a whole template that I reuse or something like that.
Concise, precise. Okay. Those are the words of the day for me now
Yeah.
because I use a tool, an application called Whisperflow, where I'm like, I don't type, I just, the voice command, okay, this is what I'm looking for. And I give as much context as possible. But as you also said, dumping just a lot of information doesn't pull off a magic, right, that you're hoping for. You have to be, again, like concise and precise. And this is what gets the job done.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so,
Yep.
if I'm a, let's say, few person SaaS company, maybe one or maybe five other persons SaaS company hearing this for the first time, what's the practical implication? Where should I be looking to capture these gains?
Yeah. Like, do you mean specifically about or do you mean like generally, like the where you get the gains in your business itself?
I think generally,
Okay. Yeah. So, one trend that I'm seeing now with AI, to build stuff way faster. If you're a SaaS, you're selling software. Like, how SaaS were always built in the past. Like, basically, all of your clients have like the same interface, right? Like, you build one tool, but they all use the same tool, but then for their own information and stuff. Because we can now build stuff way faster, there's a lot more to build like specific interfaces. Some of your users might actually prefer a different type of interface than another group of users. And in the past, you would try to somehow merge that so that you can keep both of them happy. But now you can have like more customized interfaces for different customer groups that you have. And because it's easier to build and stuff, that makes it possible now. So code is cheaper and you build it faster. And a lot of people think that that will mean that we will need, for example, less software engineers because we can achieve the same thing with fewer people. But the companies that are really going to be competitive, they're going to leverage that productivity gain to like build better applications. And a better application is one that fits your needs a bit more instead of like a generic interface, for one interface for all your clients. And so I think software engineers will still be around. They will be building more customized interfaces. Like already we're seeing now people just using all of these coding tools to build small applications specifically for themselves, like just very like mundane things that you use day to day, like a workout tracker and like stuff like that. People can build that now for themselves and they can make it look exactly the way that they want to. The only competitive advantage that you can have compared to all of these, like let's say, big players that sell these big SaaS products, is to be customizable for your clients. And that's also where I have my angle when I interact with my clients. I build custom solutions, and I have done that before AI. And already there was a lot of demand for that because companies have like their own particular processes, and like the standardized SaaS applications, the big ones, didn't really fit their need. So I would come in and build like something custom. Well, now I can do that way faster. And so that's a trend that I'm seeing, and where I think that SaaS companies of a smaller size have a lot of room to compete with these bigger players, because the bigger players will, it will be very difficult for them to agree on multiple stuff. They can barely agree on like one interface, how it should look like, let alone multiple.
And the colors, right?
So yeah. And so that's where I see where say go more customization of software, which means we are going to need more software. Like that's I think the end result of this cheaper code that we're going to. Yeah.
And here's a spicy question. With how cheap code is getting, does it still make sense to pay for SaaS, or should more companies be building custom?
Yeah. So no, there is definitely room for SaaS. I just don't see these huge SaaS products that are crazy expensive. I don't see those as valuable, or at least worth the price that you would normally pay for them. Like people are not going to build everything for themselves, so they will always default to like some service somehow, if they can. And so like I think smaller SaaS companies that can build stuff with like less overhead, like they will definitely be around, and
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
will
And
be.
I actually had a session with the customer experience expert from the company from the UK. So he's a buddy of mine, and he said he was looking for a software that would help him to analyze a ton of data that comes from client conversations. And he looked for the applications, and he got quoted, I think, like 12,000 a month, right? Which 12,000? I think it was about, no, my bad, it was 2,000 pounds a month, which was a lot of money for a small company. He would never get like a buy-in, right, from his team. And he just went into I think it was Make or Zapier, the Make or N8N. He went into the software and he built that automation workflow, and he got that job done. And he was saying, yeah, it looks ugly AF, but it does the job. This is only what I care, or this is only what I care about. And here's the question,
Yeah.
right? What's the minimum technical capability a founder needs to actually build custom? Can a non-technical founder pull this off?
So if you're building stuff for other people, like actually production stuff, I don't think you will be able to build something that is a little bit more complex without technical knowledge. I think you will still need technical knowledge because the thing is, there's like a lot more going on than just having a button that does what you need it to do. Like there's a lot of security stuff. There is a lot of
Mm,
performance optimization stuff, like stuff like that. And for that, you will not be able to just fix it by telling the AI, "Hey, make it faster," or something. Like there's really like architecture stuff
right.
in the background that you need to know how it works to do that optimally. Like AI will be able to come up with some suggestion and then help you out with that, like for sure, for sure. But to actually make big performance gains, for example, that will require you to understand the infrastructure and stuff. And so I think there will be some technical knowledge needed, definitely, but maybe not as much as you needed in the past. So like, because there's like a lot of
Mm,
engineers out there who are not like crazy senior people that have 20 years of experience, but they would be easily like they could learn faster how the infrastructure works also with the help of AI. So like some technical knowledge I think will always be needed. And then the bigger your application is and the more complex it is, the technical expertise you will actually still need.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like if you're building like a little bit more simple applications, I think you can get away with like a lot very technical knowledge.
Mm.
You'll also learn in the process, right? Like I also always say like if you have junior developers and they at some point they become senior developers, that also didn't happen because they just had magical skills, right? Like they also just learned on the job, let's say. And so when you are building stuff without technical knowledge, you will also just learn a bit more if you prompt the AI to explain stuff to you. We
Yeah.
will all
Sometimes
become
I wish I
a bit
was
more technical, maybe. Maybe that's the result.
right. Sometimes I wish I was a developer. And coming from sales background, I since I don't have a technical knowledge, I go to Lovable or tools like that. Right. Try building something with the cool idea that I think I have, or someone from the Reddit community shared with me. So I try building, and it kind of doesn't work the way I want. I spend like sometimes weeks and weeks. You just have to look at my library and and say, okay, so you
Yeah,
waste
like
a lot of time.
yeah, yeah, yes, yes, yes. No, well, yeah, but so here's the thing: what you're describing is what every developer has always had. Like the graveyard of projects. Like the directory with all of the projects that never came to be. Like that's literally every developer. So it's not so unique. But also all those projects also allow you to learn a bunch of stuff, right? So uh, it's not wasted time if you ask me, because that's how you also learn, and uh, you'll know better what to do in the future as a result.
Yeah, for sure, sure. Yeah, like they say, you live 100 years and then you learn 100 years, right?
Yeah, yeah, yes, exactly.
Yeah, and a lot of founders start with Zapier or N8N for automation. How does that compare to building programmatically? When does each make sense?
um, I think those are great tools. Like I have used Make in the past, and then more recently a little bit more N8N to build like a prototype or like a bit smaller workflows, and you can build quite complex stuff. But the moment that you go into production, the more complex your workflows become, the less reliable they also are.
Mm,
But it's great for prototyping. It's absolutely great for prototyping. I find myself these days to then convert workflows more and more to just code. And one of the reasons is coding solutions can also take a workflow now and build actual code, to do the same thing.
okay,
So that is happening. That
right.
is also
And
happening at the moment. I think they will always have some space, where you just to very quickly set something up that also just immediately works, and that you can then test out. I think that will always be around. But I think at some point, if a workflow gets used more and more, like you will have to convert to some code or whatever. But that also becomes easier.
hmm, okay. Is there already a tool that helps you convert workflow into a code?
I just do it at
No,
Cloud Code.
Cloud Code,
Cloud
right?
Code.
Cloud,
Yeah,
Cloud is
like
amazing.
like yeah, yeah, no, oh, yeah, yeah. Like since the last model dropped, like Opus 4.5, everyone is super hyped and seen like a significant gain compared to previous models, and yeah, everyone's using that. And
Right.
yeah,
Quick
there is like
question.
more crazy stuff coming out. Sorry, go ahead.
Quick question. Can you give a specific example, something you built programmatically that you couldn't have done well in a no-code tool?
Yeah, so like the moment that things become a bit more integrated, code becomes a bit more easier to handle. So for the longest time, I have always dreamt about building like a productivity system for myself, about how I work and how I like to do the specific pieces of work, let's say. And I always had like some sort of application in mind on how that should be and stuff. And like that specific thing doesn't exist. I have tried in the past to stitch together Google Sheets stuff, that takes in data from there, injects it
Mm,
in somewhere, and then gives me like something. And I use A10 for that, like a workflow tool. But it's clunky, and it's not as fun and nice to use as if you had like a completely custom application with like a proper database and stuff. And so that's and now I have like my own productivity system. It's
yeah,
working the way I
sometimes I call
want.
it the
Still,
Frankenstein approach.
yeah. Like you're literally just stitching parts together, and that can work on like smaller projects that are a bit more simple. But the moment that it becomes a bit larger, it can still work. But the more often you use it, like you will run into issues. Like basically every
Right.
connection is then a is a space where things can go wrong. Then yeah, so the
Yeah.
more complex it is, the more often that will happen.
Where does this break down? When should someone just say, all right, I just want to buy this SaaS and move on?
Yeah, so for in the modern day, like because now there are like a lot of tools and a lot of stuff is also free, by the way, out there. Like people like a lot of stuff is open sourced these days as well. I think if it's not already out there for free, if it is a simple thing, if it's like like a simple application, you could literally just have Lovable just like build that, or like one of these other tools like Bolt and stuff. Or if you're a little bit more technical, you can spin off Cloud Code to build that. But the moment that it becomes a little bit more complex and requires a little bit more of a refined structures, um, I then I would also go to some SaaS and then use that, because it will still take me like a lot of time to figure all of those things out, and I will still do it wrong, and I will still um, go back and forth and trying to fix things. 1 month later, I'll be asking myself, why did I not just pay the €10 a month for the SaaS that was already working well? Like it's like there is still space for SaaS. I just don't believe in these huge expensive tools anymore. But yeah, like there's still amazing tools out there. Don't get me wrong.
For sure, yeah. Like you mentioned, code is getting cheaper, and there are great developers out there, great design and product and sales people, right? I'm pretty sure they pull off something really amazing, like the tools I
Yes,
use on
yes,
my
yes, yes.
daily days, like the Whisper Flow and whatnot. And these days, everyone's slapping AI, right? Slapping AI chat widgets on their products now. Is that actually useful, or is there a better way to integrate AI?
Yeah, good question. I mean, it can be useful, of course. It can be useful. I do sense that there is like a little bit of an eagerness to just plop a small chatbot to add to like every service that comes, and sometimes it makes sense. Sometimes it really does not make sense. What I think we will start to see a bit more, and actually, Anthropic released a protocol that is adjacent to the MCP protocol, but for UI interactions, where you can now then, when you build applications, it's not just that you have a tool and it goes out to just fetch something, but like as you chat with your with a page, that it also controls the UI and decides what it does, what should be shown to you, what shouldn't be shown to you, what should be added, what shouldn't be added. And so then while you type with your agent, you get the immediate feedback on what that would mean in the context of that application.
Wow.
So
Okay.
it's not just a um, what's it called, like a chat window where you just type and then you just get a message back. It's like integrated into a larger interface where you can then just like do stuff. So I have built.
To clarify, I got a little confused here. So does this ACP mean that
So yeah, exactly.
you're connecting it to your application, to your product?
Yeah. So when you're
Okay.
building AI applications, so it's really an application, not just like a chat window. You can then, there's like now a protocol where you can like specify some actions to the AI that need to happen on your interface. So I built once like just to demonstrate this thing, like a note taking app where I can type add that I need to buy milk to my groceries list or something. And then you see your groceries list and then you see the milk appended to it. Like that's a simple example, but you can think that you can imagine how that concept can apply to a lot of SaaS products as well. Because one of the tricky things usually about using tools is that you need to find where you can do something in the interface, especially with enterprise software. And so like you're clicking you're just clicking around a lot to see where you need to go to do something.
Mm,
But if you have a chatbot, you can just tell it, "Hey, do this for me," and then it can do that for you. But if it is integrated into an interface, the UI, then it will not only say, "Okay, I did this," it will also pull up that view that you would normally be showing, like searching for, and then the thing that you wanted it to do is then already done, and you can see it. So you have like immediate feedback of the application on the action that the AI would have taken.
yeah. This is very exciting. I think this is where the AI is heading towards, and also it looks like that you're kind of like designing this like experience in the same sense with the example of like add like a to-do list. All right, add this one to my bucket, or I don't want this anymore. I have already bought it, or something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
so this sounds like that this is how it should feel like for the user, right? These days with the
yeah, yeah.
AI properly integrated, like in a good way.
Yeah, yeah, no, exactly. That's exactly right. That there's more integration between the chat part and your application. For simple things, you can have like just your chat window, like yeah, right, where you say, "Hey, add this to my grocery list," and then it will say, "Okay, I added to your grocery list," and you say, "What's on my grocery list?" And then it gives you like all the items. That is already possible. But for a bit more complex stuff, where you need feedback that is a bit more complex than just some text. Like you will want your application to be able to then show it. And so that is the interface part
Mm, mm.
that needs to be driven by the AI or needs to be able to say, now show this view.
Right.
And then
But quick question here.
your application should know. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry to cut you off, but you do decide what to let what to pass to AI, right? Because your application
Yes,
might
yes, yes.
contain some sensitive information and
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
data.
yeah. There is
All
there
right.
is there
Okay.
is there is there is a set functions or actions that you allow the AI to call. It's like just
Okay.
show
Yeah. This
this.
is much safer.
And you can still do, even in cases where that might go wrong for some reason, you can still do the security part in your application layer where you would normally do that security part anyway. Also,
All right.
if a user logs in, it should only show what that user is allowed to see, even with or without AI.
Yeah. Look, this sounds like the project that any solopreneur could incorporate into whatever the product they're building these days without breaking
Yeah,
the confidentiality, right? So,
yeah, yeah,
what
yeah,
did you
yeah.
say
No, no,
the
definitely.
protocol is called? The Anthropic protocol, just to
So
recall.
like they like yesterday or day before they released like a post about that, and it is an extension of the MCP protocol. So MCP usually was stuff that was um executed like on the server, get data from Google Maps or update this in on that service or whatever. But now it's like a protocol to define the interactions that an AI can do in your application.
Okay, okay, awesome. This is great, Mo. Like this is amazing. And what are you building next? Where can people follow your work?
Yeah. So I have always helped out companies with like with their processes. Now I am for the first time like also trying to build out my own products because as I said, the building can go faster now. And so like at the moment I am building like a full suite for all compensation related stuff that companies use because the moment the company gets above a certain size, let's say like a few hundred, like they will need to think about compensation and stuff. Now I'm building a product that helps companies with that, set that up very quickly. No need to hire like as an expensive consultant, a rewards consultant for a year.
And
But it does that like very, very quickly and very fast. That's one product that I'm working on at the moment that I'm very excited about. And besides that, yeah, I am on LinkedIn, Mo Bahida. Feel free to send a connection request. I'm happy to connect always with people. And my website is IcarusSolutions.a if you want to see a
awesome.
bit
Yeah,
more
make
of what
sure
I'm doing.
people you follow Bo. He's got real good stuff. And if you have any questions, if he has any
Yeah,
chance,
and
be
and
willing to help you out.
whenever people want to just like also just like chat about this, because like
Yeah.
I can talk about this like for days and days and days, and I'm also very curious to hear. I'm curious to hear from people what they are using it like in their business and stuff. So also if you just want like a sparring partner, someone like a sounding board or something, I'm more than happy to have a chat.
And in the last one, if someone takes one thing from this conversation, what should it be?
Oh, oh, yeah. I think that don't underestimate yourself just because you're a smaller player. I think you can leverage AI way more than all these large companies. That's why, by the way, like a few months ago, there was like a report that said companies say that they haven't really seen any productivity gains due to AI. Yeah, that's because they interview those large companies. Like that's what I mean.
Right.
So like, don't underestimate yourself. There is amazing ways to leverage this technology because you're a smaller player. And if you want to have like a chat about how to do that, to take some time to just talk about that.
Thank you very much, Mo. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. Always good to talk
Appreciate
to you,
it.
Daniiar.
Awesome. Thank you very much, man. Have a good rest of the day.
Thanks a lot. You too, man.
Bye
Take
bye,
care.
buddy.
Bye.
Take care.
Peace.